The recording has begun.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Town Council special meeting called by the 4 council members sitting up here. I would like to officially call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Madam Town Clerk, could you please do a roll call?
Councilman Gutenberg,
Here.
Councilman McCormick,
Here.
Councilman Sampson,
Here.
Councilman Johnson,
Here.
Mayor James.
Here.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. If you all would please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minute agenda. I move to amend the agenda to remove item 3, motion for closed session, and item 4, disclosure of closed session, because the statutory authorities listed do not apply to elected officials. Today, the Deputy Attorney General's Office, conveying the majority opinion of the Open Meetings Act Compliance Board, has stated in writing that 3-305B1I and II and B2 do not apply to criticism of a member of a public body by his or her colleagues. The Compliance Board explained that expressing unhappiness about something a public official has done is not a personnel matter under the statute. The personnel matters covered by 3-305B1I are discrete actions involving an employee: appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation. And the other personnel matters under 3-305B1II must be comparable in nature. None of these apply to elected officials. The town attorney has been notified of this written opinion. Because the statutory authorities do not apply, the council may not lawfully close the meeting for the topic listed. Therefore, items 3 and 4 must be removed from the agenda. Do I have a second? I'm going to give it to the attorney first.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Under the Town Charter C-3-4 and rules of our procedure 2-2, this special meeting was properly called by a council majority on August 13th and publicly noticed by staff pursuant to general provisions that are identified in the agenda. The session is lawfully convened. The questions that are going to be asked, you're presuming, are about the elected officials specifically. The questions for closed session are going to be that I have, and the reason why I placed it on the agenda are questions related to a meeting, 2 meetings in particular, that there are no written records for it, that I would like to ask staff of the conduct in those meetings. That is appropriate under these provisions, and all matters related to the agenda and the conduct of an elected official will absolutely be discussed in open session.
Going back to what the motion is on the floor, it is not in disputing the legitimacy of the special meeting. It is amending the agenda to go into closed session. If you want to have everything on the tables, it should be per the Deputy Attorney General's Office and the majority opinion of the Open Meetings Act Compliance Board that it should be held in open session. I am not canceling this meeting. I am requesting the agenda be amended to remove sections 3 and 4, and keep 5 and 6. That is, so there's a motion on the table, and I will ask the attorney, did you receive the same email?
There's a point of order. There's a motion on the table. It wasn't second. It died.
There
There's
was
no,
not a second.
exactly. So we move on.
Excuse me, Councilman Johnson, and please be recognized before shouting out decorum.
I did a point of order.
There was, we allowed Councilman Gutenberg a statement. So I am going to allow the attorney.
I
a
called a point
statement.
of order in accordance with rules that's followed. Councilman Gutenberg called a point of order. If you didn't address his point of order, that has nothing to do with me. I called a point of order. There was a motion on the table. It died. We
Okay.
move on. There's no discussion.
Okay.
Respectfully, it does. A motion died for lack of a second. Now, if there's another motion to approve the agenda and someone seconds it and you have comments, we have 10 minutes at each time to do that. The way the rules read.
All right, so there is a motion on the table, and there was discussion that was against the, that went against the rules of procedure, so I apologize for allowing that. Do I have a second to keep everything in open meeting and amend the agenda?
I'll make a motion, Madam Mayor. I'd like to
Okay.
make a motion to accept the agenda as written.
Well, I know that there is a motion right now that is open. You cannot do another motion that is procedurally incorrect.
Okay, so point of order, or point of clarity, I guess. How long are we going to wait for a second that's not coming? Okay.
So seeing that there is not a second, we will entertain a motion for approval of the meeting agenda as presented.
Said motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Next is public comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak this evening? Next on the agenda is a motion for closed session. I am going to again state, because of the information that we received today, that from the Deputy Attorney General's office conveying the
Madam Mayor,
majority.
Madam Mayor, point of order. No one on this council has received any legal notice or any notice of any of the cases that you're referencing. We have had poorly cited cases in the past, and this is my point of order. Any party, including yourself, may submit inquiries to the Open Meetings Compliance Board. The council is proceeding in full compliance with statutory open voting requirements under the general provisions that are cited in the agenda. There is a remedy for the complaint you have, and that is to ask the Open Meetings Compliance Board that if what we're doing in good faith here violates some intent of that act, that is your remedy.
That is,
not
the
citing-
remedy has been
not-
asked and has been received, and the attorney received that information around.
Point of order, Madam Mayor, this
Today.
body has not received any formal notice from any court or other convened authority that has jurisdiction over this meeting. The meeting has been lawfully called and we're proceeding.
Thank you very much for that. The attorney, if the attorney has not conveyed this information and he represents the town council, that is not on me. But I am the president of the council. I must do what is lawful. And based on the Deputy Attorney General's office email today conveying the majority opinion of the Open Meetings Act Compliance Board, they stated in writing that 3-305B 1I and II and B2 do not apply to the criticism of a member of public body by his or her colleagues. The Compliance Board explained that expressing unhappiness about something a public official has done is not a personnel
Point
matter.
of order, you are
I'm
presuming, you are.
Statute,
no,
excuse
point-
me.
point- I'm sorry, point of order, you are going
You have
on.
to be recognized for
No,
a point of
Then I
order.
appeal your, or your.
Okay, could you please
No,
tell
I
me-
appeal your, I
Could you tell
appeal.
me what procedural
Yes.
infraction is occurring mid-sentence that I'm reading.
Unless a signed court injunction has been formally served on this body, the council is legally obligated under Charter Section 3-4 to proceed. You are referencing things that have not happened, that they do not apply.
Okay.
I am glad you
your
got
opinion.
emails. No, and not in my opinion. Unless a signed court injunction has formally been served to this body, then this meeting proceeds.
So point of order, I am going to ask the attorney, did you receive the Open Meetings Act Compliance Board opinion today around 4 o'clock?
Well, a couple things. First of all,
Point of order, Mr. Town Attorney. Are you, as the town's attorney, authorized to rule on compliance with the Opens Meeting Act as a matter of law? Only the compliance board can make rulings on compliance. I stated earlier that there is a remedy. We are in good faith proceeding, and having a discussion about emails that might have flown back and forth between people with lofty titles is not the path to block or slow the meeting and the discussions that need to happen here this evening.
and I cannot disagree with everything you just said. However, I think a point of clarity would be helpful to resolve this issue, if I may.
Yes, you may.
I mean,
With a very limited amount of scope, I
this is going to be very, very.
because I'll remind you, sir, that the debate of the rules of procedure and the things that we're going to discuss tonight are between the 5 members of council.
I agree.
In closed session, we can receive legal advice from you.
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so again, and the point of clarity that I'm only making here is a few times it is said a majority opinion of the compliance board. As it turns out, the compliance board did not have a majority opinion today, and it says, and this is from the Attorney General, I'm following up with an email to share a few compliance board opinions that you may find helpful.
Okay.
Okay, that is not an opinion, with regard to
Sir,
this issue.
Understood.
So I want to make sure it was clear exactly what it is. And if I may,
well, my understanding is that the call for the special meeting, the agenda as presented, was passed through you and approved.
it was.
Okay. Then very limited amount of time should be spent elaborating here. You had me approved.
Well, and then I just want to make sure we're clear exactly what it is. So in my conversation with the Attorney General, they gave no guidance to me as to what was going on tonight. It was sort of like she said two of the members thought that it may be an issue that could be a possibility. And I was like,
And I don't, sir, I do not want to get into a back and forth on the debate, but the basic premise that's being forwarded here by the mayor is she's presuming that the purpose of the closed session is to talk and, in her words, complain about her conduct. I
No.
would not categorize it
Point
that
of
way.
order, I am using the statutory authorities that you cited as a reason to go.
Point of order,
into
Madam Mayor,
closed
that if you look at the statutory sections I cited in the call for the special meeting, town staff was actually helpful in adjusting those to be more appropriate based on the advice of the town attorney
Okay,
so that we could proceed.
well, and thank you for interrupting again, but it says to discuss any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. If it has anything to do with an elected official, that's not a personnel matter. The privacy of reputation of an individual with respect to matter that is not related to public business. If it's an elected official, there is nothing that an elected official does that isn't public business. Unless you're stalking somebody and you see what they do on private that you have a question with. And employee or official whom it has jurisdiction under. None of us have jurisdiction over any of us. That is the charter. The charter says that. It does not give us any means of discipline
Point of
It
order.
only gives us means, let me finish my sentence.
There's a point of order.
It gives you means of legislating, not disciplining.
There
Yes,
is-
Councilman Johnson, your point of order, is it procedural?
It is.
Okay, and what procedure has been violated?
There's no debate before a motion is taken. There's an agenda item that was just approved by this council, 4-1, I imagine, for 3.1. Can we please move? If you want to debate that is after second, the way the rules are written. If you agree with the legality of it, there's avenues to discuss that. We're not the body that decided Open Meetings Act violation. According to our rules, there's an agenda that was approved. Take the motion. If there's seconds, there's a second, and there's debate. Have all the conversation you want for 10 minutes. That's okay, but can we move on with the agenda?
I was in the middle of that until I had.
There was
4
no
points.
motion made.
There wasn't, because there wasn't going to need a point of order. I cannot lawfully go into closed session knowing that it is in direct violation from what the Deputy Attorney General's office sent me.
You-
I can't do
you-
that.
You seem to have two different
I'm
assertions.
sorry, point of order. We have, the Deputy Attorney General has not been here and has not provided anything. The
Okay.
town attorney who advises the council just said that we can proceed. He has approved this agenda. Your avenue, Madam Mayor, for the last time, is to pursue your concern with the Open Meetings Act Compliance Board. And they will advise us on what we should do procedurally.
Closed session.
Second.
I'll entertain one. I'm not making a motion.
Oh, Madam Mayor,
It says motion for closed session.
Yep.
Do I
Right.
have a motion to go into closed session?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion, we go into closed session under statutory authorities to close session, section 305B1I, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of an appointee, an employee, or official over whom it has jurisdiction. Section 305B1II, to discuss any other personal matter that affects one or more specific individuals. And section 305B2, to protect the privacy or reputation of an individual with respect to a matter that is not related to public business.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
All right, I'm going to go first. I'm going to ask our attorney the discussion. Could you please point out in the charter or code where it gives council the authority to discipline, or, as it says right here, since you approved it, official over whom it has jurisdiction? Can you point out in the charter where it specifically gives elected body jurisdiction over one another?
To answer it directly, the charter is basically the constitution of a municipality. That's what a charter really is.
Understand, and that is our governing law.
And basically, this would be under the general regulatory powers of council. Because if your position is that indeed the charter, it can only operate within the charter, and it's one of the things I spoke to the Attorney General about this, about my position on this, and she did not disagree. That indeed, if you're going to say that the council can only operate within the four corners of the charter, then basically 90% of the code that has been adopted, which does not apply to the charter at all, also is invalid. Because.
Okay, good.
If I may, because that is the general regulatory of the council in making those decisions. So if you're going to be a strict conformist as to the charter, that means things in the code such as the historic preservation section, or parks and rec section, building construction section, cable TV section, property standards section, vehicles, or the water and sewer section were all improperly done, and they all must be deleted immediately.
Well, and the
Point of
fact
order,
that women
point
have to
of
vote.
order.
I-
I have a serious point of order here. I am confused. We have a properly made motion that was seconded to go into closed session, and now we're having a debate on what?
And
I'm
we're going
confused.
into discussion, as it was pointed out by Councilman Johnson, that is the proper procedure.
She
to
has
do.
10 minutes. Let her have it.
So
All right,
I have,
I understand. Thank you. I yield. Thank you.
So to answer your question.
so could you point out in code where it has
It's
any
the
jurisdiction.
Regulatory powers of the section. As to specifically stated, it does not. In the
It does
code-
not state that.
Sure.
Could you put it in rules of procedure where it states that we have any jurisdiction over one another?
In the rules of procedure, I do not.
Okay, so in your legal opinion, it is not written in charter, code, or rules of procedure, yet you approved this.
I-
The second one
No,
said,
ma'am, no, ma'am, you're not gonna put words in my mouth now. Basically, as I stated, it is within the regulatory powers of council.
Councilman Gutenberg said you approved it and you said yes. We can roll back the
Point of
tape.
order, I said he approved the call for the special meeting, which is the agenda.
The closed session. So approval, you did say.
I did,
Okay, so I don't know why you just disputed that.
I did.
The other one said personnel matters. Where does it say anything about elected officials on that?
When you say personal matters, which are you talking about?
3-305B1 II.
I think the most appropriate would be two. Okay, even though council, brought it up as to one is what it originally was, I'm the one who modified it to include section 2.
And
That
then
is the one most appropriate. in my
B.
opinion.
protect the reputation of a person not related to public business.
Correct.
What person sitting on the dais does not do public business?
The issue, as my understanding that's going to be discussed, is an issue regarding the state as opposed to public business involving the citizens of La Plata.
Okay, so my question is, why can't this be held in open meeting and all of this discussed in open meeting if you just went through and could not say that each of these qualify? Why can't we do this transparently for the public?
First of all, I never said that. And number two is you were right. If you guys want to do an open meeting, that is completely up to you. You vote how you think is appropriate.
Otherwise, it looks like it's pretty shady. So we have
More discussion, please.
go ahead, Councilman
Yes.
Johnson.
I want to clean up two things that wasn't finished. The motion for the closed session. The topic is regarding the conduct of a member of council. The reason for closure is to discuss the discipline of an official and to discuss the conduct of an official while interacting with staff. That's to fully go on with the motions, to clean up the reason for closed session.
Thank you for that. And that goes back to conduct of a member of town council to talk about, which there is nothing in charter code or rules of procedure that allow us to do that. And to discuss the discipline of an official. Again, Mr. Pounds, can you point out where there is, for reason for closure, the discipline of an official, where we have the right to discipline when it's not in code, charter, or rules of procedure?
That would be the general regulatory powers of council.
And it states where? What is
With
the
general
statement?
Regulatory powers. of
What is the
council,
statement?
Well, the general council has broad powers to do what's in the best interest of the public. Okay, and then to undergo your reason, so in essence, if we take your reason to the next logical step, then we need to eliminate the historic preservation, parks and rec, building construction, cable TV, property standards, because none of those apply in the charter.
But they're stated and they can be removed. You can't add something that's not in there
If I may.
just for, and I believe Councilman Sampson's next, just for ease for tonight. You can't add something.
That's what the purpose of the potential resolution is going to happen with your regulatory powers to do.
Okay, Councilman Sampson.
Yes, thank you, Madam. All right, so I have just 3 or 4 quick questions, just to get clarity. Since we're talking about this letter from the AG, what prompted you to reach out to the AG?
I didn't. I received a call first thing this morning from
What
the,
prompted the AG to reach out to you then?
there was, from what I was told, it was a complaint from the mayor to the compliance board with the AG. And they called me first thing this morning. When that call was made to them, I don't know.
It was
They-
not a complaint. It was a look for clarification.
Okay.
So point of order on that.
And then they said, basically, they wanted further details as to what exactly was going on here. And then they said I would receive a call back this afternoon, and I did receive a call back. It was a little after 3. And then, so I said, can you send me a short email? And I received that email, I guess, the exact time, it was about 4-ish.
Okay. My next question is, so I hear the debate over our inherent powers. Okay, meaning what we can do and can't do and how we govern. But without going into any names or anything, we have already, if you want to call it that, I'm not sure that'd be the appropriate word, but we have already disciplined an elected official. So I'm not exactly sure the debate of that. We've already taken an action that resulted.
Well, point of order. I don't think we have disciplined an elected official. I think we have had a closed session where we discussed conduct of an elected official.
Okay.
And there was no such gnashing of teeth and all of this being thrown up against the wall then.
Okay. And so, and my last question, just for clarity. So, because I've heard back and forth. So just for clarity, based on your conversation with whoever from the AG's office today, based on everything you've heard, is going in closed session a violation or not?
There was no decision whatsoever, and it was, and in my last part of the conversation was, so you're telling me it's an if, a maybe, or could be, or possibility. There was no actual decision made by the board, and they said that of the members, 2 of them said if, possibly, maybe, the others did not.
And how?
I'm sorry.
How many members is it?
I'm gonna tell you something I'm not sure of.
Okay, all right, that's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And if I may, just to,
Councilman Johnson.
thank you. So in the charter, 3-5, council to be the judge of qualifications of its members. There's only one sentence. The council shall be the judge of the elections and qualifications of their members. Read that how you want. In the code, underneath for council chapter 13,
Point of order, we're not in an election
no, it was one sentence, judges of elections and qualifications.
and qualifications. Yes, that's relates to elections.
But
You
that
can't just-
that's interpreted how you interpret. That's what I'm saying.
It's under elections and you can't.
That's
just-
not under elections. It's under the council chapter 3-5. It's under the council section, not the,
And qualification of members is directly in correlation of the election.
if that's how you interpret it, that's fine.
Okay.
Also, and in code, the council shall be the final authority on all business and affairs of the town of La Plata.
That, again, it's legislative.
This is in the business and affairs. We're doing council business.
Okay. All right. You interpret it your way and we'll see what afterwards, what the board says in writing for OCM, the OMA board. All right. So we have a motion to go into closed section.
We're still in discussion, correct?
If that is what you wish.
Yes, because of what was brought up, I feel I would like to just say something. So our town council rule of procedure, which is codified in resolution 2621, establishes the fundamental duty of this body to police itself. Under section 1.2 or 1-2, the town council acts as a collective body. And we hold the inherent responsibility to maintain internal governance standards, protect administrative boundaries under the charter, and enforce compliance across all 5 seats of the council. Second, under section
Point of
8
order. Again, where does it say that in the charter?
I'm going to get to that.
Okay, go ahead.
Second, under section 8-5 of our rules, a resolution, which is what we are here to consider today, a resolution, that is the legislative action we're taking, is the formal legislative instrument established for this body to express its collective determination, not the determination of one, the collective determination. Using a resolution to issue a censure provides a clear legislative record when a member's actions violate charter, rule of procedure, or code of civility. It serves as a formal notice of conduct outside our established rules and allows the council majority to publicly reaffirm the standards and expectations required of every elected official. Our rules exist to safeguard the integrity of municipal governance and protect staff from administrative interference and ensure that official council actions are respected. Discussing resolution, tonight is about that.
Again, you cannot,
I'm sorry.
a point of order. I am going to,
It's
say
a
you
resolution,
cannot-
ma'am. I
you
pointed it
cannot-
out to you.
Point of order. You cannot create a resolution on something you don't have authority on.
On our collective will, we do resolutions almost twice a month.
That are
Okay.
legal, lawful. You cannot create a
Yes.
resolution that is not backed up by code, charter, and just to create one on the fly.
Point
You
of order,
cannot
it
do
is
that.
your right to challenge such then,
Well,
after this is.
and I am hoping that our attorney is able to see where resolutions cannot just be made up because someone is upset, that it has to be factually based on that. And they can't create something you don't have. Can't create discipline without it being in code, charter, or rules of procedure. So we have a motion that has been properly seconded to go into closed session. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. The motion carries. It is at 6:31. We will go into closed session and we will reconvene as soon as we are done with this closed session.
All right, council, it's going to be a little different tonight. So closed session, you're going to exit the dais and you're going to go into the conference room over here. We're going to leave the camera running and we're going to put a notice up for any public that may be viewing that states the council is in this special meeting, but that you're in closed session. That way, when we come back in and reconvene the meeting will be ready to go. So you'll be in the conference room. let people know and
Yep,
make sure.
one
that
second
we're
to
ready.
let everyone in.
This reason.
Oh.
All right, next on the agenda, in accordance with the disclosure of closed session that just occurred on August 18th. So in accordance with the Maryland Open Meetings Act, annotated Code of Maryland General Provisions, Article 3, Chapter 3-211, we are required to include specific information in the minutes when a public body meets in closed session. To ensure full compliance, we have attached the written statement. We will attach the written statement that includes the reason for closing the meeting, the statutory authority permitting the closed session, a listing of topics discussed, the individuals present, and the action taken. This documentation will be made part of the public record to maintain transparency and meet the legal requirements of the Act. It brings us on to our next item, which is matters of discussion. Resolution 26-21, revision of the Town Council Rules of Procedure. So, Mr. Stevens, I will send it to you.
This item was requested by Counselor Gutenberg. I don't have a staff report for you this evening.
Okay. Councilman Gutenberg?
Yes, so I'm going to reiterate a statement I made earlier because we're at that point in the agenda. But the reason that I asked for this agenda item, first, I want to just clarify as well that the title of the agenda item is the title of the resolution. We are not here to revise or update the rules of procedure. So this wanted to produce the following statement related to it, just for context setting, in maybe a calmer way than we did as we were navigating the start of the meeting. So I asked to include Resolution 2621 under our discussion agenda tonight to establish a clear, shared understanding of our governing framework before we consider the legislation before us. First, our Town Council Rules of Procedure under Resolution 2621 establish the fundamental duty of this body to police itself. Under Section 1-2, the Town Council acts as a collective body, and we hold the inherent responsibility to maintain internal governance standards, protect administrative boundaries under the charter, and enforce compliance across all 5 seats of this council. Second, under Section 8.5 of our rules, a resolution is the formal legislative instrument established for this body to express its collective determination. Using a resolution to issue a censure provides a clear legislative record when a member's actions violate charter, rule of procedure, or code of civility. It serves as a formal notice of conduct outside our established rules and allows the council majority to publicly reaffirm the standards and expectations required of every elected official. Our rules exist to safeguard the integrity of municipal governance, protect staff from administrative interference, and ensure that official council actions are respected. Discussing this resolution here tonight reinforces that our procedural rules are binding standards that we must actively uphold.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, we will go on to 5.2. Councilman Gutenberg, the floor is yours.
Okay. So with this agenda item, I provided staff and the members of the council documentation this weekend. They have the references for the resolution that's being presented here for consideration this evening. What I would like to do is simply read this this resolution because it lays out the foundational elements of what conduct, in my view, has run outside of the standards and the concepts that I just spoke about. And that is for the council as a body to consider when we take legislative action on this later. So this resolution is concerning censure of Mayor Janine James for violations of the town charter, town council rules of procedure, and code of civility. For the purpose of formally censuring Mayor Janine James for unauthorized actions taken to undermine a formal vote and decision of the town council, interference with the administrative duties of the town manager, and non-compliance with established standards of governance and civility and all matters related thereto. Whereas under Article 3, Section 3.1 and Section 3.6 of the town charter, all legislative powers of the town are vested in a 5-member council consisting of the mayor and 4 councilmen, and all official actions require the favorable votes of a majority of the council. And whereas Sections 1-2H and Sections 1-2I of the Town Council Rules of Procedure mandate that the will of the majority must be carried out, and the Town Council must act as a body. And whereas under Article 4, Section 3E, Article 5, Section 1, and Section 5A, and Section 5.6 of the Town Charter, when a town manager is appointed, all administrative duties revert to the town manager, and members of the council are expressly required to deal with the administrative service solely through the town manager. And whereas on April 28, 2026, the town council adopted Resolution 2625, the Code of Civility, requiring elected officials to respect democratic processes, focus on the merits of issues, discuss outcomes constructively when their perspectives do not prevail, and refrain from undermining collective council decisions. Whereas on July 20th, 2026, Senior Advisor Vin White of the Maryland Department of Transportation provided written guidance to the town manager, Chuck Stevens, regarding town representation on the Safer Maryland Coalition Local Leaders Cohort, confirming that MDOT was open to either a mayor or council member by stating, again, we need executive level attention and doers, so we are open to arrangements, mayor or council member, that helps give shine and delivers. And whereas relying on MDOT's written guidance provided to the town manager, the town council responded to agenda item 5.4 during its regular session on July 28, 2026, formally nominated Councilman Gutenberg to serve as the town of La Plata's representative to the Safer Maryland Coalition. And whereas on July 29, 2026 at 7:39 a.m., Town Manager Chuck Stevens officially communicated the Town Council's nomination to MDOT in accordance with his executive duties under Charter Section C5-5. And whereas on July 29, 2026 at 7:48 a.m., Mayor Janine James, acting without the knowledge, authority, or consent of the Town Council, sent a unilateral communication to MDOT leadership and the Office of the Lieutenant Governor asserting that the council's nomination does not align with the intent or basis of the invitation and questioning the qualifications of the council's designated representative as individuals who are newly elected and are only beginning to establish their own engagement. And whereas this unilateral intervention by Mayor James leads members of this body to reasonably believe her actions resulted in MDOT rescinding its acceptance of the town's delegate on July 31st, 2026, thereby subverting a lawful decision of the town council majority and depriving the town of its selected representative leadership on the local leaders cohort. And whereas such conduct constitutes a direct violation of Town Charter 3-6, 5-6, Town Council Rules of Procedure 1-2H and 1-2I, and Resolution 2625 Code of Civility, Section IE, IIA, IIC, and IIE. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the Town of La Plata, Section 1, that the Council of the Town of La Plata hereby formally censures Mayor Janini James for unauthorized interference with an official decision of the Town Council majority, non-compliance with Town Council Rules of Procedure, violation of the administrative boundaries established in Charter Section 5-6, and failure to uphold standards set forth in Resolution 2625 Code of Civility. Section 2, that the Town Council reaffirms that intergovernmental delegation and legislative policy decisions reside collectively with the Town Council, and that no individual council member, including the mayor, possesses individual authority to countermand or undermine an official vote of the body, and that this resolution should take effect immediately upon its adoption.
All right, so I'm going to open it up for discussion, and I'm going to start. In accordance with Section 8-4 of the adopted rules of procedure, I would like to have the following statement included in the minutes of the meeting. I will be providing a written copy to the town clerk as required. So this is in statement for the record in response to the draft resolution 2651. I'm going to state my purpose is provide factual clarification regarding the events referenced in the resolution and to identify where the cited provisions of the charter, rules of procedure, and code of civility do not apply to the conduct described. So on June 11th, the Maryland Department of Transportation issued an invitation addressed directly to Mayor James. And for the record, I'm going to read that. Dear Mayor James, the Maryland State Plan provides a vision to make Maryland safer, including an all-of-government effort to prioritize through creating safer communities. At the Maryland Department of Transportation, MDOT, we aim to fulfill this charge by providing the safest transportation network in the nation. As a Vision Zero state, we are committed to eliminating all vehicle-related deaths and serious injuries on our roadways by 2030. Despite our proactive efforts in engineering, education, and enforcement, too many lives are still lost on our roads. The loss of life and lifelong physical and emotional injury is heartbreaking, and its toll on residents is staggering. In response, in May 2025, MDOT announced the launch of the Serious About Safety initiative, MDOT's all-hands-on-deck call to expedite progress and sharply bend the curve on roadway facilities across Maryland through bold action. The initiative leverage the full portfolio of MDOT's modes and partnerships for action to deliver the safest transportation system in the country. It also builds on the national leading work zone safety work groups recommendations that are not now implemented. While MDOT is committed to doing the hard work to improve safety, we know we cannot reach our goals alone. This effort must be done in partnership. With that in mind, we are pleased to invite you to join in this critical initiative by participating in the Safer Maryland Coalition. Convened by Lieutenant Governor Miller and me, the Safer Maryland Coalition will bring together a small group of elected officials from across the state to learn, share, and take action to improve transportation safety. You have shown a commitment to bold safety action, and your participation will help spur the courageous thinking and action we need to save lives. The coalition will meet 4 times over the next year, beginning with building a common understanding of the transportation safety landscape and proven best practices for improving safety The group's focus will quickly turn towards commitments that participants can make within their domains, as well as continually bolder action we can achieve through collective advocacy and effort. MDOT looks forward to supporting your efforts to stand up your safety commitment throughout the course of the year. I hope that you will join this important initiative. Information about scheduling on the first convening of this group will be shared soon. In the meantime, please respond indicating your interest participating in the coalition. At any point, please contact with questions. Sincerely, Katie Thompson, who is the Secretary of Transportation. The invitation was not addressed to town council, nor was it issued to the town as interchangeable entity. On July 31st, MDOT stated the invitation was non-transferable. This statement fully explains why MDOT did not accept a substitute representative. No document from MDOT attributes its decision to any communication sent by me. The La Plata Town Charter and the Town Council Rules of Procedure govern internal town operations. The rules of procedure, including Section 1-2H regarding the will of the majority and Section 1-2I regarding acting as a body, apply to how council conducts its own business during council meetings. They do not regulate external communications with state agencies, nor do they bind external entities. No charter or rule of procedure requires the mayor or other council members to obtain council approval before responding to communication addressed to the mayor. While the mayor is a member of council, Charter C5-6 applies only to council members when interacting with the town's internal administrative services. Administrative services refers to internal town operations and staff interactions. Responding to an external communication addressed to the mayor is not an administrative interaction and therefore does not fall under C5-6. Additionally, factual context is relevant to the council's interpretation of external communication. On April 15th, 2026, the council explicitly authorized individual correspondence by elected officials. The council directed staff to prepare individualized letterhead for each council member, instructed that the template be reviewed by the town attorney to ensure proper authority, and approved individual signatures on recognitions. These actions formally established that council members can correspond independently. The subsequent criticism of the mayor for responding to an email addressed directly to her from MDOT is inconsistent with the council's own adopted practice. And I did not have any concern with Councilman Gutenberg or Councilman Johnson independently corresponding with MDOT, as their communications were fully consistent with their individualized correspondence practice the council unanimously adopted on April 15th, 2026. The resolution does not identify any specific statement in my email that violates Code of Civility. The code requires respect for democratic processes and constructive discussion when perspectives differ. It also requires evidence of intent to undermine collective decisions. The resolution does not provide evidence of such intent, nor does it identify any factual inaccuracies in my communication. Section 1 of the proposed resolution attempts to formally censure the mayor. The proposed censure has no legal foundation. Neither the town charter, the town code, nor the town rules of procedure authorize the council to censure any elected official. None of these governing documents list censure as legislative, administrative, disciplinary, or parliamentary power. None establish a procedure for censuring an elected official, and none identify any legal consequences that may follow from a censure. Because the charter defines the powers of each office, any action not granted by the charter cannot be exercised by the council. A council resolution cannot create a substantive power that the council has not otherwise been granted. If proponents believe the council possesses censure authority, they should identify the specific charter, code, or rule provision that confers it. Absent of such authority, the proposed censure is not an exercise of an established council power, but an attempt to impose a disciplinary mechanism that does not exist in the town's governing law. Particularly significant given that the action is directed at an elected member of council. Section 2 of the proposed resolution attempts to reaffirm authority the council does not possess. The mayor serves as president of the council and is otherwise a member of the council. The charter does not grant the council's supervisory, disciplinary, or evaluated authority over any member of the council, including the mayor. Legislative authority does not include disciplinary jurisdiction. The council cannot expand its powers through resolution or assertion. Section 3 states that censure is effective immediately, but provides no due process protections. Even when a governing body has disciplinary authority, which this council does not, basic due process principles apply. Due process requires notice, identification of legal standard allegedly violated, and an opportunity to respond. The resolution does not identify a charter provision violated, a rule of procedure violated, a code section violated, or any factual inaccuracy in the mayor's communication. Without jurisdiction, without a defined violation, and without procedural protection, an effective immediately censure cannot meet even the most basic due process requirements. These clarifications are offered solely to ensure the record accurately reflects the governing documents and the factual sequence of events. So that was a lot to say that this resolution doesn't meet the standards. And I'm going to go allow others to speak before I come back and speak. Do I have anyone
Yes,
that
Madam
would like
Mayor.
to discuss that?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Councilman Johnson.
Thank you. I will start by just saying facts are very stubborn. The rule of procedures, no individual member up here has individual legislative power. We act as a body. We reaffirm that statement by adopting rules. On, I think it was July, whatever the meeting was to nominate Councilor Gutenberg, the council made a nomination. The will prevailed. There was one who disagreed with that. There was communication from MDOT to Mr. Stevens, which you have all the documents that I think we got, I don't know, what's today, Tuesday, we got yesterday. And our read is from one of the senior advisors to the Secretary of Department of Transportation. It was great speaking with you last week, as promised. I'm sharing a one-pager describing some of what was discussed. Read ahead background materials will be circulated to members ahead of the call of September 1st. Again, we need executive level attention and doers. So we are open to arrangements, mayor or council member, that helps give shines and deliver. I will admit, the ugly baby is, you got the email from the secretary. You knew the rules. We appoint members to boards, so you knew that had to come before council for appointment. You did that, not disagreeing with that assertion. The action that council took, good, bad, or indifferent, was a duly process that we possess. It prevailed 4-1. That's the majority being carried out. Mr. Stevens took his administrative direction from the collective will and communicated with NDOT staff. That was done. Not less than 10 minutes of that same morning, you sent communication to the secretary. I will first say, I sent the letter, I sent the inquiry that was aligned to what occurred that night of the meeting. It was not dispersion in council.
Point of order, was it a letter that you sent on your own to MDOT?
As an inquiry, not.
It doesn't matter. Did you send correspondence
Did
to
you
MDOT?
not hear yes 3 times?
Well, I'm
Okay,
clear.
so let me finish my statements.
I have a
Well,
point of order.
what's your point of order
Because
procedurally?
The procedurally, you are introducing incorrect facts.
Is it, can you
that-
quote what rule of procedure that is?
Yes, because right now you and it's under your resolution
No,
here.
Madam Mayor.
Where you have.
2621, govern the rule of, you called a point of order,
where-
please quote your point of
where
order.
you're doing a point of order because you are arguing that I am wrong in
I am
sending
not arguing. I was making a
correspondence.
statement.
Okay.
I'm not debating you.
But did you send correspondence?
I don't know how many times you could hear yes. Unfortunately, my
I
only
do.
language is English. Right. But you said you did not send any communication that circumvent the will of the council. I'm not debating you. I'm having comments or discussion time. You sent an email on July 29th at 7:48. The town council designated another council member to participate. While I appreciate their interest in this effort, the designation does not align with the intent or basis of your invitation. That is you perceiving you have some executive authority over the council to circumvent the will.
Absolutely not. That was informative only. Was there a course of action that said, please do not take Councilman Gutenberg? Is there a point of?
May I finish my comment? 'Cause I could continue reading it. Also place this opportunity, one grounded in relationship and collaboration developed over many years in the hands of individuals who are newly elected. You didn't explicitly say what you just quoted, but
Okay.
reading this, one would believe a reasonable person. Facts are stubborn, Mayor James. We established that for the last hour and 10 minutes sitting in this meeting, that facts are stubborn.
Does it say?
We're not going to, Madam
does it
Mayor,
say,
Madam Mayor,
please
did I
put
just,
me
did I
where?
just read this on the record?
Okay,
Did you hear the question that you're asking me? Did you hear the question? Did you hear the question that you're asking me?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so why are you asking me, did it say?
Because.
That's
it needs to
irrelevant.
be clear. Go ahead.
I think I'm speaking very clear tonight. I took blood pressure medicine before I came here. Pretty calm.
There you go.
So, one reason belief for you to believe that the charter interference, and that's your interpretation of what interference means for administration. Sure, that's your interpretation. I can't change that. The fundamental fact is the council majority must be carried out, or excuse me, the will of the majority must be carried out. If you happen to be in that majority, great. If any of us happen not to be, so be it. It's 5 of us up here. We have legislative authority. And I remind you, in the rules, when it talks about resolutions, it is clear that it states.
And while you're looking for that, in response to you, I agree. The will of the council should be carried out. I have no authority over MDOT. I cannot make them change their mind. I cannot make them do whatever. MDOT is, they can do what they want. So I agree. If it's the will of the council, then it should be carried out. And even if I'm in the minority on that. So with that said, I am being crucified for MDOT sticking with wanting.
Can I reclaim my time, please? Well, no, hold on, no, you're not going to take my time. You said you'll come back at the end. I'm still have time to speak. Please let me finish. Thank you. So a resolution, just to clear it, a resolution may be issued to formally express the town council policy decision, such as when we purchase vehicles, buy cameras, or to make a public statement from the town council. The documents I got yesterday makes me believe that a resolution is the correct instrument based on my reading. Look, it's a piece of legislation. Obviously, it's clear tonight that you disagree with that, and that's okay. The council will decide its will. I am done speaking. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, follow up, please.
Okay, go ahead.
So I would like to respond to some of the points you brought up, Madam Mayor. So an invitation to the mayor of the town of La Plata, to Mayor Janine James, is sent to the office of the mayor, not an individual citizen. You were not invited as Janine James, come do this. You were invited as Mayor James of La Plata. Under the charter, Section 3-6 and our rules of procedure 1.2, all corporate policy powers and intergovernmental appointments reside collectively with the council majority. And I believe you did the right thing when you got that letter. You acknowledged it by forwarding the invitation to administrative staff. And that to me is you correctly acknowledging that this was municipal business under the charter and that the town manager then acted with in the complete correct way as the CEO in seeking written administrative clarification from state officials, which is what he did. And so the problem with what you're asserting about the invitation coming directly to you is that MDOT's written guidance nullifies the argument that you're making. MDOT's explicit written guidance from Mr. Vin White on July 20th, communicated to our CEO and town manager, confirmed that either the mayor or a council member could participate. That official written response legally and factually extinguishes any claim that you have that this original invitation somehow just nullifies everything that happened after it. And then the last thing I'd like to say is there is a difference between the communications that Councilman Johnson had with MDOT and the communications I had with MDOT. Both of those were inquiries to MDOT staff, and following my written inquiry, following the rule of procedure, using my identification and the things that you referenced earlier, I notified council and shared that with all of council as well.
You did.
Being transparent. I believe Councilman Johnson did the same thing.
You did not.
Your email to the state, including the folks at MDOT and the lieutenant governor, was not disclosed to council and only became apparent after a Maryland Public Information Act search resolved that missing piece of fact here.
Okay, so in accordance with section 8-4 of the adopted rules of procedure, I would like to have the following statement included in the minutes of the meeting. I am going to provide a written copy to the town clerk as required. So this is going for your resolution, point by point. So whereas for number 1, whereas under Article 3, Section C3-1 and Section 3C3-6 of the town charter, all legislative powers of the town are vested in a 5-member council consisting of the mayor and 4 councilmen, and all official actions require the favorable vote of a majority of council. Clarification, Article 3 governs legislative actions such as ordinances and resolutions. Responding to an external email from a state agency is not a legislative act and does not require a council vote. Nothing in C3-1 or C3-6 restricts the mayor from responding to communications addressed directly to her. Whereas, number 2, Section 1-2H and 1-2I of the Town Council Rules of Procedure mandate that the will of the majority must be carried out and the Town Council must act as a body. Clarification, Sections 1-2H and 1-2I govern internal council decision-making during council meetings. They do not regulate external communications, nor do they bind external agencies. No rule of procedure requires the mayor to obtain approval before responding to an email addressed directly to her. Whereas, number 3, under Article 4, Section C4-3E, Article 5, Section C5-1, Section C5-5A, and Section C5-6 of the town charter, when a town manager is appointed, all administrative duties revert to the town manager, and members of council are expressly required to deal with the administrative service solely through the town manager. Charter C5-6 applies to clarification. Charter C5-6 applies only to interaction with the town's internal administrative service. Responding to an external communication addressed to the mayor is not an administrative interaction. No charter provision prohibits the mayor from communicating with external agencies. Whereas, number 4, on April 28, 2026, the Town Council adopted Resolution 26-25, Code of Civility, requiring elected officials to respect democratic processes, focus on merits of issues, discuss outcomes constructively when their perspective does not prevail, and refrain from undermining collective council decisions. Clarification, the resolution does not identify any specific statement in the mayor's email that violates the Code of Civility. The code requires evidence of intent to undermine collective decisions. No such evidence is provided. Number 5, whereas on July 20th, 2026, Senior Advisor Vin White of the Maryland Department of Transportation provided written guidance confirming that MDOT was open to either a mayor or a council member. Clarification, the July 20 email was general guidance, not a formal invitation. The formal invitation was issued earlier on July 11th, 2026, and was addressed specifically to Mayor James. A later council vote cannot override the designated recipient of an external invitation. Number 6, whereas relying on MDOT's written guidance, the town council formally nominated Councilor Paul Gutenberg to serve as the town of La Plata's representative. Clarification, no charter provision grants the council authority to nominate or substitute a representative for an external invitation addressed to the mayor. A council vote cannot alter the recipient designated by MDOT. Whereas number 7, on July 29th, 2026, town manager Chuck Stevens officially communicated the town council's nomination to MDOT in accordance with executive duties under Charter Section C5-5. Clarification, the town manager's administrative authority does not include altering the addressee of external invitations. Communicating the council's preference does not change MDOT's designated recipient. Whereas number 8, on July 29th, 2026, Mayor Janine James, acting without the knowledge, authority, or consent of the town council, sent a unilateral communication asserting that council nomination does not align with the intent or basis of the invitation. Clarification, no charter rule or procedure requires council consent before the mayor responds to external communication addressed directly to her. The resolution does not identify any factual inaccuracies in the mayor's email, and the mayor has no control of what MDOT does. Additional factual content. On April 15th, 2026, the council explicitly authorized individual corresponded by elected official. The council directed staff to prepare individual letterhead, required attorney review for authorized authority concerns, authorized individual signatures on recognitions, and affirmed that independent correspondence was permissible. These actions formally establish that council members may correspond independently. Criticism of the mayor for responding to an email addressed directly to her is inconsistent with the town's adopted practice. I did not have, as we said before, any concern with Councilman Gutenberg or Johnson independently corresponding with MDOT as their communication were fully consistent with the individualized correspondence practice the council unanimously adopted on April 15th. Whereas number 9, the unilateral invention leads members of this body to reasonably believe her actions resulted in MDOT rescinding its acceptance. Clarification, on July 31st, MDOT stated the invitation was non-transferable. This fully explains why MDOT did not accept a substitute representative. No MDOT communication attributes its decision to the mayor's email. Whereas number 10, whereas such conduct constitutes a direct violation of Town Charter C3-6 and C5-6, Town Council Rules of Procedure 1-2H and 1-2I, and Resolution 26-25. Clarification, C3-6 governs legislative actions, not external communications. C5-6 governs internal administrative interactions, not external agencies. Rules 1-2H and 1-2I govern internal council procedures, not external communication. No specific conduct is identified as violating the Code of Civility. No cited provision applies to the mayor's email. Going down to section on authority, censure authority. Section 1 of the proposed resolution attempts to censure the mayor. The Town of La Plata Charter, Town Code, and Rules of Procedure contain no provision authorizing the council to censure any elected official. Censure is not listed as a legislative, administrative, disciplinary, or parliamentary power. Any action not granted by the charter cannot be exercised by the council. A censure mechanism cannot be created through resolution, implication, or practice. The mayor serves as president of the council and as otherwise a member of the council. The charter does not grant the council supervisory, disciplinary, or evaluated authority over any member of the council. Legislative authority does not include disciplinary function. Section 2 of the proposed resolution attempts to reaffirm authority the council does not possess. The council cannot expand its powers through resolution or assertion. Section 3 states that the censure is effective immediately, and this has already been said, but worth saying again, but provides no due process protections. Due process requires notice, identification of legal standard allegedly violated, and opportunity to respond. The resolution does not identify a charter provision violation, a rule of procedure violated, a code section violated, or any factual inaccuracy in the mayor's communication. Without jurisdiction, without defined violation, and without procedural protections, and effective immediately, censure cannot meet the most basic due process requirements. This analysis is offered solely to ensure the record accurately reflects the governing documents and the limits of council authority. So that is, thank you. I will provide that to.
May I have one follow-up, please?
Sure, Councilor Butler.
Thank you. I do want to say that there is, I have no intent, I'm not hearing anyone else say that there is any restriction being placed on or implied restriction on responding to emails to anyone. Responding to emails is not the issue. The issue is what we are saying in our emails. And we've had conversations in here before in my time on the council and in sessions about the responsibility of how we communicate as council members. In fact, that was, as you referenced, we all, we have letterhead and we have procedures and talked through this quite extensively as a group, as council had not had those kinds of documents before. And there was concern how they would be used and how communication would happen. The issue is that the communication that was made with state officials was made in contradiction to an action that the council had taken just 12 hours earlier. And it was also in contradiction to your own words that night. You said, I listened back to it. You said, if this is what the council is going to decide, then so be it. I think were your words. That is not what you said, and that is the fundamental problem. You absolutely, all of us can answer any emails we get. And then the last couple of things I just want to say is just to reiterate with all of that mountain of stuff we just heard, is that, I'll continue to assert confidently that we as a body hold the inherent responsibility to maintain internal governance standards. It's why we pass a rule of procedure. It's why we passed a code of civility. Go back and listen to some of the things I've talked about on the Planning Commission here in our council sessions just recently as we finished some of the things we did for our boards and committees and commissions. And I talked about how that was good, and it's bringing those kinds of standards so we can reference them and look at them, and we can all work better on all of those boards and commissions, because this is hard, communicating and navigating through democratic processes with groups of people, and having those documents are I think essential, which is why I have supported them. And I will say though, if we on this council don't hold the line on the standards that we put out for the rest of La Plata's government and staff to uphold, then that becomes, whatever we don't enforce becomes the new standard. And so I think that's why that's important. And the very last thing then for now is that a resolution, it's really important, I think, to reiterate this. A resolution is this body's formal legislative instrument for us to express its collective determination. It is that simple. You can use the word censure, you can use the word corrective action. You can call it whatever you want, right? We're calling it censure here because it applies, but it is simply an expression of the body's collective determination. So anyone who wants to look back at all the references I've made, keep that in mind. One question though for town staff, for Mr. Stevens. Could I ask, based on the extensive amount of things that were kind of placed out here, and what Mayor James has asked to be attached to the minutes, I would like to ask, would it be appropriate for the effectively the agenda packet that I presented to council to be attached to the minutes, so that if somebody wants to follow up, they can go through and look at the things that council had when they were considering this?
I'll confer with our legislative services director, but my off the cuff answer is yes, I believe we can include that in the public packet.
Thank you.
I'll check with you after.
So
Thank you.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Yeah.
a follow-up. Couple questions. First of all, I asked this question to Councilman Johnson, and I want your response to that. Is there any place in the email that I replied to, the email that was sent to me, and I replied all, that said, please do not honor the will of the council? Is there any place in there that says that has an action of asking them not to do that?
My answer is, in the context of the emails that were provided, I am left to only be able to conclude that that was the intent of the words you used.
That's your interpretation of
It
intent.
is my interpretation.
Right, but
Yes.
that's not the question. The question is there any place in that email that specifically directs MDOT not to do the will of the council? Any place in there?
Let me just look.
Was there any action that was required from MDOT?
You creatively, I will say, like you were trying to navigate something there, if you're asking.
It's just a
But
simple
you-
question,
no,
yes or
it-
no?
it's-
Did I ask MDOT
There
to
are,
rescind and appoint me? Was that in there? Did I ask them to have an action there?
well, first, your precept that there are simple questions here tonight, I think is wrong. There are no simple questions here, right? This is complicated. I'll grant you that.
It's your interpretation. My question to you
It
is
is my
very
interpretation.
simple.
We agree.
But my question is very simple. Is there a request from me to MDOT to
There-
rescind?
There is
The
an
will of the
implied,
council.
there is a,
No, it-
there is an implied action there. There is an implied action there.
You interpret it as implied.
Yes, you are correct.
So there was no, the email that went out, there was no, it was
This isn't going to be an if then and turn my answer into something else. You asked the question, I gave you the answer.
During the meeting. The second question
Well,
is,
wait,
the real reason that we are here is because MDOT said, no, we're only going to extend the invitation to Mayor James. How, and my question to you is, how is that on me that MDOT went and said, we're only extending it there? They are of free will.
that you are correct. And MDOT's explicit written guidance on July 20th confirmed that they would accept either the mayor or a council member to participate
No disagreement with that. However,
with
on
no other.
July 31st, they said, nope, we want the mayor only.
Yeah,
So
just
they-
hours after your email. It is a strange
Yeah.
coincidence.
It may be a coincidence, but we don't go on coincidence. We go on facts. The fact is July 20th, they said that mayor or council. July 31st, it said, no, it's non-transferable. I am not, you are punishing me or censuring me for an action that I did not do. That is MDOT. Your beef is with MDOT, not me.
No, the So first, you are trying to assert that there are that the same rules of evidence in a courtroom apply here. They clearly do not. That we are not in a courtroom. So
Okay.
we are free to use our judgment to interpret the things that we can clearly see. And so that's what we're going to find out here shortly when we get to the legislative section is which view the collective body has in its review of everything that's been provided and said here tonight.
Okay, so as you said, it was interpretation. That's your interpretation. Councilman Johnson.
Yes, thank you. Just to clear something, I don't think there's any beef with MDOT. I believe from reading the censor that this is to really, if you want to use the word police, our own and hold each other accountable to the standards that this council set forth. There were some comments mentioned about the charter don't give us the legislative authority. 3-7, procedure of council, which is in the charter. The council shall determine its own rules and order of business, period. We establish resolution 26-21, section 7-1 of boards, committee, commissions, and authorities. The appointment of town council members to boards, committee, commissions, and authorities shall be approved by affirmative vote of majority of the members of the town council. That's what we took. I don't believe the discussion here is about what email you got back in. I don't know if it was June or July, right? You did the right thing because you know we hold the authority to appoint any member to a board. You forwarded it to Mr. Stevens. Mr. Stevens engaged in dialogue with the state for whatever that reason was, okay? We're not here to discuss Mr. Stevens. What happened was, based on that conversation, an advisor for MDOT came back and said, thank you, paraphrasing, based on your context, we are open to arrangements of the mayor or council member. What came before this body in July was two distinct questions. Do we want to participate in the cohort? The council said yes. If so, what elected representative? I'm not going to scapegoat that you got the original email. I mean, that's the factual base. I'm not disagreeing with you on that assertion. What was brought before council was two very distinct questions, and we responded to that question by exercising our rights under the rules of procedure. Based on your email, whatever your intent may be different, and you get to say that. That's okay. When I read it, it looks damning. It looks like there's a there, and that's my interpretation.
For that, right?
No, you know what I'll tell you? It's actually sad that we got to be here to police our own. I was hoping, and I'll quote what I told Paul. I'm hoping there is no there, because this is ridiculous. You don't have any unilateral authority to go out and, or excuse me, I'm not. Since when do any member of council carry out the administrative functions of council once we make a will of majority? We don't. We
No,
sign the resolution and we keep it moving.
but I ask you again. MDOT putting in writing on 31 July.
Oh, yeah, I'm not
that it goes-
disputing.
So how am I
I
being
don't.
punished for that when I haven't seen your email? that
It's
you
an
sent
inquiry.
out?
Oh, if you want,
It
I told
was-
council that he chose to send his email. That has nothing to do with me.
But
I
no,
made
no,
it clear to
but you
council.
didn't.
You're not going to take the
Wait.
floor time from me.
No,
If you like to engage in
Councilman
the,
Johnson, you have said, and Councilman Gutenberg said, well, I went and provided it. Mayor James, we only got yours through a MPIA. Councilman Johnson
did I not make the comment on the public record in new business that I also made an inquiry to MDOT? Did I not make that comment?
Didn't I also?
I'm speaking from, I don't remember that conversation. If you did, I had to go back and review it.
Because you.
But what you not, hold on, just, Janine, Mayor James don't get to take all the time from everybody.
But I do want to say, to your point, you point blank asked me, Mayor James, did you correspond with MDOT?
Oh, yes, I did ask you that on the agenda portion and new business I'm talking about.
So you knew full well that I sent an email. It's on the record.
Look, if you look at that answer, Mayor James, if you want to call a spade, there's a there before I seen the email. So I don't think we want to have that conversation, but if I may proceed, you are right. I did ask you that question.
You did, so
Uh,
make sure facts
but-
are facts.
They are.
Okay?
You made me lose my train of thought because you took my time. My question was, or excuse me, I'm not asking a question. I apologize. My comment is, since when does the council provide a consensus, either in a vote, a yay, nay, whatever the will is, do we as members individually carry out the will of council after we leave chambers and sign the resolution or give the vote. Since when do we carry out the administrative functions? We don't. We don't go buy Tahoe police trucks for the police department after we say yes, do it. We don't email the dealership and say, hey, the council said yes, but I really don't like the color purple. We don't. That's not the practice that we have. The administrative function of government lies with the authority of the chief executive officer, which we have reaffirmed, I remind you, through a charter amendment, which dictates that we shall have a town manager. Your intent of your email is your intent, Mayor James. The way it reads, and once it's publicized to the public document, it leaves no person other to believe that you disagree with the assertion of council. And clearly that is true because you voted in the opposition. But that did not give you the authority to carry out the administrative will, since you mentioned administrative will only lies with the town level plate of government. The will of the council is the will of the council.
Again, I go back to the will of the council, and Councilman Gutenberg said, and you said, well, if that's the will of the council, let it be. So that's on the record. I cannot control what MDOT does, or the Secretary of Transportation, or the Lieutenant Governor.
You reminded
I
me.
can't do that. They are the ones
Yes.
who sent that. So if you have a problem with that, there is not something that the will of the council was not done because of MDOT, not because of me.
You actually reminded me. Thank you. I don't believe we're discussing MDOT rescinding the invitation. I think we got that update on August 11th, and council didn't express to have any further conversation.
Okay,
We are
so
talking about
being-
because you say punish you.
Well, what's a censure?
It's a public reprimand when you
Okay,
look at it.
so, all right, use wordsmith. Why am I being
Because
pointed out
I
when
think-
you sent an email to
I sent an
MDOT,
inquiry.
You sent an email to
I sent an
MDOT.
inquiry.
It doesn't
based
matter
on-
what it is. You sent an email.
No, do you want the context of the email?
I don't really care what the
Oh,
content.
then why are
is,
you asking them?
Because I didn't ask you.
You
They
said,
just
what's
said
the
you
difference?
You sent an email. I sent an email.
May I refinish my
Please.
discussion, please? Thank you. Where I'm getting at is there was comments made that the council don't have some authority. The charter gives us the ability to make rules and procedure. The council hold the authority to appoint members to the board. When that came up, I didn't hear you advocating for yourself before the nomination, right? And I'm just going to finish. The council took an action. What I see the concern is, based on reading your email, it leads me to believe that based on the word choices you use, you were hoping that they would rescind the decision. If they rescinded the decision, okay, guess what? I believe every resident in the state of Maryland is going to benefit from the work of that cohort at the end of the day, no matter who serves on it. You can call it what you want. You believe that you don't have to be responsible to council, and we all have to be responsible to council. Hence why we have rule of procedure. We hold the authority to appoint. You can dissent and say your disagreement from the dais. You don't get to carry out the administrative function of saying unilaterally what something goes against. We don't believe it go against that vision because we made the nomination and we appointed Councilman Gutenberg. So therefore, we believe it aligns with it. You believe it don't, but you say council decision does not align with the intent. That's you speaking on behalf of the council, which you have no authority to do.
Wait a minute, why do you say it's speaking on behalf of
You sent it, Mayor Janine James.
Okay,
Council
so
took
April
action.
15th? April 15th,
We're not. No, we're not. I'm not finished talking.
Okay, I
You
will
can,
hold my point.
yes, based on your email, it can be interpreted that you were speaking on behalf of council after we made a decision, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't think I can say too much more on this because I think we're gonna go in circles and comma and quote dates. And if that's what you want to do, by all means, use your time to do it. I don't think we should have to do this. But the fact that I believe, and I made this comment before, Mayor James, I believe that you believe, and I'm not saying that you believe this, you don't have any responsibility to the council. That's my interpretation.
That's your.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's my opinion of what the actions that you
I
collectively
have
take.
a lot of opinions too, but that is not what we legislate. We legislate on facts.
That is a fact. You don't hear point of orders. You match a point of order for point of order. You fail to hear motions. You circumvent. Yeah, we could have that conversation next week with agenda item. You do. I made plenty of motion. You believe, oh, wait, I'm having that's not how our rules dictate how procedure goes. I get it. You had 9 years of not being challenged and questioned. I get it. Here we are today.
So back to your point of, I sent a letter as Mayor James on April 15th.
Did not say you
wait,
sent the letter.
This is what you said. And it said, well, it said senators and congressmen send letters and they don't need everybody else and they send it on the signature. So from there, what happened was council directed our town manager to do letterhead for each one with the town seal.
Mhm.
And I argued, as soon as you put the town seal on something, it looks like the body has agreed with that. And I even said that my letters that I have sent in the past for letters of support is from a homemade letterhead that doesn't have the seal on it, because I never want to interpret that as I'm speaking for the will of the council when it is my letter of support. So when you said me sending an email from my mayor account, that goes in direct contradiction of April 15th, when the collective body agreed that we could have our own letter.
May I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Do you believe that context of that conversation gives you the authority to act administratively on behalf of the council? And if you do, maybe we need to revisit that rule and clean it up to expressly state that it don't.
Not acted
No, I asked you-
administratively.
I'm asking you, do you believe, based on the context, you said the letter, do you believe the context that you quoted, do you believe that conversation during that meeting was intended for us to act individually on administrative functions? And if you do, we need to revisit and clean it up.
I cannot answer that because and I listened to it again today, April 15th is when it was said that we could each send out our own correspondence.
Mhm.
So
Correspondence and providing some type of direction that council went against the intent of something when we took a vote
Again-
is not a correspondence.
again, point out in that email where there was any course of action that was required from MDOT, a request for them not to honor what was the will of the council. It was informative only, informative only. There was no request for them to do anything.
Okay.
For them to change their mind on July 31st, or it's not even change their mind, that the direction that was given to Mr. Stevens, they said, yeah, we're open to either one. For them to assert on the 31st that it's non-transferable, that is not on me.
No, no,
Could-
that's
could-
not what's being discussed, but I'm done having
Well-
this
May
conversation.
I be recognized?
I'm done speaking, so.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I don't see or hear anybody on the council arguing that you cannot send emails or that anyone can't send emails. That is not the issue. The issue is not sending emails. The issue is the content of emails in the context of the sequence related to this decision. It is extremely clearly laid out in the resolution. But I will summarize, because we're hung up on this, or I should say you are hung up on this. The council took action. The executive, the CEO, following morning, sent an email to the state communicating the action that the council took. Within minutes of that, you also communicated to many of those same officials and others, including the lieutenant governor, stating that you recognize that the council took this action, but that you do not believe, you appreciate their interest, separating yourself from the we.
Because I was a no.
And that's okay, but we don't vote and then get to go and be our little segregated segments. We are a body. That's how governance works. That is the fundamental issue here. And that while you appreciate the other right interest in supporting this effort, that the designation, in your opinion, your individual opinion, does not align with the intent and basis and all the other things that you said. And then within hours of that email from you, MDOT changed their mind. And I'm not arguing that. It is fine that they did that. I have no beef with that. This is a question of how we govern here and how we respect the democratic process here. And it is specific to the communication within your email. Nobody is questioning whether or not you can respond. You can respond to anyone you like.
So a question, you said within hours they changed their mind. Can you please tell me when that email was sent from me? Yeah,
Your email was sent on July 27, 48 a.m.
okay. And you said within hours. Can you please tell me when?
Yes, within less than 72 hours.
Oh, no. Well, oh, okay. You said within hours. So your intent wasn't to mislead and make it sound like
No.
2 hours later,
No,
they went and
we're,
did.
we're
But
talking
you
about
said
dealing
within
with,
hours.
we're talking about dealing with administrative staff in a state agency. That's lightning quick response time in my
Well, that
experience.
is your interpretation of
Okay.
that. But factually,
Yeah.
they replied on the 31st of July. So,
Nobody's disputing that. That's
Well, you
in
just-
all the,
I'm just-
no,
I'm-
that is in the resolution, Madam
but
Mayor.
you just said, unless you're
It's in the
misleading.
resolution.
Well, what your
Nobody's
words were,
obscuring this
hold on, what you said was within hours.
within
Sure, no,
72
no.
hours.
Now you quantified it. But what you said there was misleading
Okay.
to anybody listening. Within hours means within a couple hours. Doesn't mean within 72 hours unless we want to play that game, because we can do years and that can be hours too. That is not the intent. Your intent was was very misleading.
Look, in
on that.
my, I'm sorry, in my
Okay.
military background, saying 72 hours was kind of a common phraseology. And so, I mean, if
Okay.
we have a different experience, that's okay.
That's good. And we're not in the military here, so I understand
We
that.
certainly are not.
So just go ahead, Councilman McCormick.
Yeah, so I wasn't going to comment, then we took an hour and 51 minutes, so here I am. This is a masterclass in debate tactics, and I'll say well done to Mayor James on that. But again, there's two fundamental things that we need to address in this conversation. The first is the shifting of the goalpost, and I hope folks are listening. I know it's taken a long time here. But what happened is this resolution has whereas statements and then an action plan on the bottom, section 1. I didn't hear, Mayor James, when you were going through each whereas, that you're refuting the things that are claimed here. For example, when you look at the whereas statements, right, a reasonable person can conclude, right, that the intent here is to go against the will of the council. What happens is you go, I'm allowed to send emails. And then we get muddied down into a conversation about individual letterheads and what happened on April 15th. The conversation here tonight is very simple, just like Councilman Gutenberg just laid out, but it's important to make sure this gets outside of the muck here. The conversation we're having is about the context of the email you sent. You state in your final sentence, thank you again for your leadership and for the opportunity to engage in this important work. I was under the impression this council allowed Councilman Gutenberg and Mr. Stevens in an administrative capacity to continue and engage in this important work, not for you to do so. So again, I think it's clear when you read the first paragraph here, the town council designated another council member to participate. Then you say, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to engage in this important work. And 72 hours later, MDOT reverses its decision and rescinds the invitation that they had sent to Mr. Stevens for the council to decide our rep. A reasonable person is going to clearly conclude, okay, this email, a reasonable person is going to say, drove that decision. So nobody is disputing you can send an email. You can absolutely send emails. It's the context of this email. When you go against the will of the council, it has to be called out and is rightfully getting called out. The second thing that you talked about.
Wait a minute, point of order, to go back to that so that we're fresh on that. That last email, I work with the secretary. I work on the state level through MML through MML.
Madam Chair,
with
what is the
all
point
these.
of order?
So
We're
I
not-
continue.
We're not
to work-
referencing a rule. Like you've interrupted his
Well-
his point to debate. You said a point of order and then you don't cite a rule that indicates why he's being interrupted.
But and I guess that's.
Other
been
than
practiced
you,
in the
you're,
sense
you
that-
want to,
then it should be, I rise on that question of personal privilege. That is probably the right thing to say, is that you are taking that right there and using that as the sword that you're going to fall on. I interact because I am on the executive board of the MML, and then I am on the board of directors, and that I am the immediate past president of the Mayor's Association. I interact with all of them. And I do look forward to working with them. So if your interpretation is that, that's your interpretation.
Sure,
But again, there is no ask there.
sure.
Point of
So,
no ask.
so here's the master class and debate again. The subject line is in response to Safer Maryland Coalition invitation. And Mayor James's defense is, well, I work with them at MML. I could have been talking about that. When the statement is clearly, thank you again for your leadership and the opportunity to engage in this important work. Your tricks are not going to work. The second thing that you brought up that I think is important to go over is this idea of what a censure truly is. And then you kind of tipped your hand when you stated you're being crucified for that decision. Let me be clear. If MDOT turned around and still allowed Councilman Gutenberg to sit on this coalition and this email still happened, I hope we're still having this conversation. MDOT's decision has nothing, in my opinion, to deal with the censure that we're talking about. The censure itself is not to censure MDOT for rescinding an invitation or for allowing for you to sit on this board against the council's will. The censure is for your activity and your communication with MDOT that went against the will of the council. So I just hope that everybody who's watching this, we just spent an hour and a half on getting drugged through mud and confusing statements with phraseology and, in my opinion, right, misquoting parts of the charter and interpreting it for an individual's purpose and benefit. You just look at the facts that are laid out. And again, Mr. Stevens, I'm glad that you're going to put these exact emails and information into the agenda packet, because this will clearly show that, again, the town of La Plata had an opportunity to decide two things. Are we going to join this coalition? Who are we going to send as our rep? We said, yes, we're going to join this coalition, and we are going to send Councilman Gutenberg. 9 minutes after Mr. Stevens explains to MDOT the decision of the council, Mayor James writes this email, and 72 hours later, MDOT turns around and rescinds the invitation from Councilman Gutenberg and only allows for it to be extended to Mayor James. What is a reasonable person supposed to come to the conclusion with that chain of facts?
And thank you very much for pointing out the words interpretation. I've heard a lot of things interpreted today. And this goes back to day one when you all were elected. You have tried to, and it's documented, you have tried to just diminish the role of the mayor. It is, it's a role, I will read this into the record again. So since being sworn in on May 12th, 2022, the town council has taken several actions that have materially affected the role of the mayor.
point
The
of order,
point-
point of order.
Yes,
Personal
I'm reading this
characteristics.
into the record.
We are here in a special meeting with a specific agenda. Now you're pulling out a list of grievances since
No.
May 12th of 2025?
These are facts, and
No,
it shows how it's factual.
How do you rule on the point of order? How do you
from
rule on the point of order?
I'm sorry?
This is outside the scope of the special meeting. How do you rule on my point of order?
You're out of line on your.
I
point of
appeal
order.
now to the council on
Oh,
this
oh.
rule of order, because what is being read now is a list of grievances that is outside the scope of this special meeting, violates the rule of procedure, and I think it should not be allowed.
I second for discussion.
All right.
I second for discussion. Sorry.
And what was your stated grievance for the record?
You are clearly about to read a pre-prepared piece of paper that has a list of grievances of everything that you're upset about since May 12th of 2025 through today. we are in a special meeting that is called with a specific agenda. This is not on the agenda. It is not pertinent to the issue being discussed. I have now appealed to the council to say
Okay.
that that should not be allowed.
And we have a second, and for discussion. This is not,
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, if I can.
Yeah.
We haven't done this before, so if it's okay, I'd like to read directly from the
Please.
council's rule of procedure on how this works. Okay. So I'm referencing the rules of procedure dated April 28th. This is adopted by resolution 26-21 earlier this year. I'm in section 6.2, and I'm going to read to you paragraph G. Any member of the town council may appeal to the town council from the ruling of the presiding officer. If the appeal is seconded, the member making the appeal may briefly state his or her reason for the appeal, and the presiding officer may briefly explain his or her ruling, but there shall be no debate on the appeal, and no other member shall participate in the discussion. The presiding officer shall then put the question, and this is in quotes, shall the decision of the presiding officer be sustained, end quote. If the majority of the members present vote no, the ruling of the presiding officer is overruled. Otherwise, it is sustained. Thank you.
all
And then-
right, so,
Because of that, then how about I just restate, just to be clear, that we have a special meeting that has a specific agenda by our rule of procedure. And that I don't believe reading a list of grievances that goes back to these dates is appropriate for the rule of procedure, for the special meeting that we are in, for the purposes of trying to ascribe motive to the vote we're about to take.
okay, and I said that I do not accept that. We had a second here. You have stated it, so now it is, Mr. Stevens, I have a right to state why I have said that.
Correct. The presiding officer may briefly explain his or her ruling, but there shall be no debate on the appeal. No other member shall participate in the discussion.
The reason for that is that throughout the context of what we were talking about, it is a way of, when we're talking about censuring, which is the whole reason that we're here, it's another way of taking a chip at the mayor and the role of a mayor. And what I have prepared for the factual accounts of council's action since May 12th does directly relate to that.
Okay, so the presiding officer shall then put the question, and I'll just read it then. Shall the decision of the presiding officer be sustained?
Shall the decision of the presiding officer be sustained?
No.
Councilman Gutenberg,
No,
Councilman McCormick,
No.
Councilman Sampson,
No.
Councilman Johnson.
No.
Okay, now if that is the will of the council, that is what we do, and we will not include this at this time. All right, so we have, I think, had a very robust conversation on this, yes, go ahead, Councilman Sampson.
I just have one statement to make that I think is overlooked. And I think two things can be true at the same time. So, but I think the fundamental issue is this. Because I've heard you say this several times, that, you didn't say anything specific, verbatim, requesting the action. But your action, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it right in front of me, by saying that our action, what you're saying is that in effect, our action that we took does not align with the state agency's intent, then also means that the town manager, the chief executive's action does not align. What you're doing is and that's where I think the difference is. When you say our action doesn't align, because the only thing that doesn't align would be the vote that we took to nominate Gutenberg. That means that the guidance we gave him was out of order. By default, then, the council and town manager are out of order in that action. You saying that is, and I think that's where the disconnect comes in at. I think a reasonable person can conclude then that the email is undercutting the credibility, because you talk about being new and other things, of the decision of the council and the decision of the town manager. That's where I think the disconnect comes in at. I think if you had just simply said, "Thank you for the invitation, the council's taking another decision," I think then this discussion wouldn't happen. But I think when you start using words like new, because when you say their intent, you're really referring to our action based on their guidance to us, which means that you're basically incorporating the town manager by saying his understanding is wrong because he's operating off of their written guidance to us.
Absolutely. And I can say that in an email because I was a dissenting vote. So it was, although it was the will of the council, it was not my will. And it's on the record that it was 4-1. And again, I go back to saying how I am getting punished for MDOT's email. MDOT back to them. You can interpret it any way you want, and it's always going to be towards me personally and not the role of the mayor. You can do anything the facts are there. The email didn't ask them to do anything. And they said, no, we're going to stay true to what it was on June 11th. That's what it was. And Mr. Stevens explained that also when he was asked point blank by Councilman McCormick last meeting.
Then the only question I have is, what was the intent? Your intent? I don't know your
To
intent.
inform
Now,
what the
what was
will of
your
the
intent
council was.
Talking about the newness in our action, because that is what's clearly
Because,
aligned with their intent.
thank you for asking.
And what does that have to, and does that mean that you're saying that the town manager didn't know what their intent was? Is
The
that-
town manager had the email that was sent on it, and they specifically said, "You have shown a commitment to bold safety action, and your participation will help spur the courageous thinking and action to save lives." I have served on one of these committees before. I expressed that, and they recognize that I have the experience there, so I am not new. You four have not served on for Vision Zero. So you are new. It's not an insult. I have the history with them. It is in their own email. That is why they sought me out. It was an unsolicited request from the Secretary of Transportation.
The last thing I'll say is this. So basically, it looks like to me we have basically two competing stories. Either the staffer from the Department of Transportation is not following orders from his superiors and has gone rogue, or the Secretary of Transportation clearly wanted you and nobody else. I mean, that's what the choice will look. And what you're, but what you're asking us to do that, the direct guidance that he got, because you keep reading the email, and you're right, the email did go to you. But the only thing is, you keep ignoring the email that was written to him. That's what and the emails written to him in his conversations, that is where I think the confusion comes in at.
There's no confusion. There was an email
So
sent to them, and it could be mayor or council. Definitely said that. But again, how am I to control what MDOT does? The secretary might have only wanted me because, and the lieutenant
that's-
governor.
well-
Lieutenant governor, I worked with as the mayor, president of the Mayor's Association.
But once again, that goes back to what I'm saying. Let's just say for the sake of argument, the Secretary of Transportation and Lieutenant Governor wanted you.
Okay.
Let's just say then that means that the person who communicated with him then is wrong.
And how am I being punished for that?
You're not being punished for that. You are saying that he is wrong.
did not say that
You
at
are
all.
saying,
I
because when you
acknowledge,
say that this body, and I'm paraphrasing, did not meet the intent, what is this body did, what did we do to not meet the intent? We took a vote. And we took a vote based on the chief executive officer providing it to us.
the intent.
So if our intent is wrong, that means the town manager was wrong. And
And-
what that means is that you are trying to correct, by definition, that wrong. If I
Absolutely
follow
not.
you- Otherwise, what you're saying is that the Secretary of Transportation is a liar. Right?
No,
Yes.
and then
Because
I see how you're twisting this
No,
and trying to put
either
in
the
there
same-
the intent.
I'm not saying the intent, I'm saying if your rationale is correct, if you just, listen what I'm saying. If your rationale is correct, which I actually believe they probably didn't want you. I actually believe that. But what I'm saying is the word that came down to him through the staff was mayor or council.
Not
Right.
dispute,
He gave us this.
and not, there
He
is,
voted for the council.
and there
Yep.
was a
Mayor
vote.
James, let him finish, please.
There's no
Mayor
dispute.
James, point of order, point of order. All right, you want to talk about the,
Wait, please wait to be recognized.
all right,
You
point,
were not
But what I'm
Point of
saying
order.
is- But what I'm saying is, so everything is the same. We're all in agreement up to that point. But your email, and we could read it, says we, and I'm paraphrasing, we did not meet their, you're talking about us. You're not talking about them, you're talking about us. Our intent. Well, our intent was based on an action we took. So you are talking about us and the will of the council that was decided. Otherwise, the rationale doesn't make sense. And we only took the intent or the action because he gave it to us. So either he's wrong and we made a wrong decision based on his misunderstanding, right? And which would mean that staffer was wrong for doing what he did, right? Or the Secretary of Transportation, right, is right. And you're correcting us. I mean, the two can't be both true. Because you got two different people from the same agency saying two different things, and you're referring to our intent. Nobody's talking. Even your email, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You were talking about our intent did not align with theirs. Right? Even if I go by your logic, that's right. That would be right. But we did it based on the information we had. So you, by definition, is correcting that. Now, you could say if you're not correcting it, then that leads to, then what are you doing? If you're not correcting that false change, then what are you doing? And that's what I'm trying, that's the part where I'm struggling. Because I'm trying to be reasonable, but the problem is you have two staff, like I said, both from the same agency. Either he got wrong information and we acted on it, and therefore your email would make perfectly good sense. Hey, I'm not going to join. This council has the wrong intent. They're new. That would make perfect sense if you're trying to correct it. Or you're doing something else and we have the right information and intent. I mean, therein is the problem. And I'll just leave it at that.
And I believe that the solution would be to have the secretary here, have MDOT here and say, what was the intent? It is not our jurisdiction to tell the Secretary of Transportation or the Lieutenant Governor of Maryland how to communicate with their staff. There is no dispute for the third time that that email was sent to Chuck. Not at all. And it said mayor or town council. Absolutely did. And the information was sent in. My email came in, and it took me hours to do an email to make sure that I wasn't undermining the will of the council. And it just happened to go out a few minutes after Mr. Stevens did. And the whole thing that you just said, Councilman Sampson, is either their staff isn't talking with somebody or the Secretary of Transportation overruled them. Again, not my problem. Not my problem. The final answer came down on July 31st. And if you all are just up there because you interpret the email that I sent as undermining the authority of the will of the council, that's your interpretation. And it gave no direction, absolutely no direction to MDOT. They could interpret that any way they wanted. Councilman Johnson.
Thank you. I just want to be clear, you're not being censored for MDOT's decision to rescind the invitation. I believe the resolution states the context of the email that you sent. But for purpose of conversation, so that we're not distinguishing what the mayor is, the mayor has 3 distinct roles: to preside over meetings, to be the ceremonial head of government, and any other powers or duties granted by the council not inconsistent with the charter. That's the mayor role. So when you say diminish, it's not like some glorified executive role, just to clarify the record. But most importantly, I don't believe the intent of the resolution is to censor you for MDOT's decision. That's not up for conversation at this meeting.
Okay, so if I hear you correctly, it's the content
Of the
of
email.
an email. So to take this a step further, and I would never want to do this to staff, I'm going to ask for every single email that my colleagues here have sent out, and then scrutinize that to interpret what I feel it means.
If you fail to do that, I think it'll be a bad lapse of judgment, is why we're kind of here. But I think there's an avenue in the Maryland law that allow you to do that. And it won't be unilateral decision from you to staff. There's a process. So that's where the I come in fact. There's a process to request records. But I think that will lack judgment on your end.
But what you just said kind of sums it all up. You didn't like what I said.
That is
and
not what I said.
somebody's feelings were hurt that they're not allowed to, that they were not recognized after this council. The will of the council said, Councilman Gutenberg, you're going to serve on this coalition. And the Secretary of Transportation said, no, we want our original person, Mayor James. But what I have learned from this is a lot, and I will reserve that for another time because it is getting late. And it has already been decided, despite refuting every single thing in this resolution, and there is no due process, which the attorney should have given you guidance on that if you are going to censure someone, and that's the word that you have used. There was no heads up on this. There was no ability to, although I have taken it upon myself to make sure that I fought for myself and did what was supposed to. But when you're censuring someone, there's got to be a due process. Mr. Pounds, am I wrong with that?
Ma'am, this is the due process. This is a hearing. Everybody's spoken. Everybody's been heard. They've outlined the facts as they're presenting. They've outlined the law. This is the due process.
And that was given to us beforehand, right? So that was the due process. We see it differently on that. So with that, oh, go ahead.
And this is not to, I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but you said something that I do think would be good, actually. And I will make this a formal request later on, something that you just said. I do think it would be good. And it's not to, I'm not trying to mock or do anything like that. But I would like to see, because I have some questions, and this is kind of getting off topic just a little bit. I have some questions about some other things, about a meeting that I wanted to have in July that never came out. I will be formally requesting that all of our emails be put out.
Point of order, again,
And-
we are talking about things that are not on the topic.
You are correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're correct.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. So again, right there, that exchange between Councilman Johnson, Councilman Sampson, Mayor James is just another trick. And what I mean is I'm going to lay it out very clearly for the town. Mayor James makes an assertion. Due process has not been given to her. She's made that assertion several times tonight. She then assumes that Mr. Pons is going to say something that agrees with her and makes the mistake of opening up to the question. And what does Mr. Pons say? Mr. Pounds, excuse me, exactly what any reasonable person knows. This hearing here is the due process. These are the same verbal tactics and tricks that have occurred for the last 2 hours and 18 minutes tonight. I really hope everybody that's truly watching this is realizing that the substantive arguments of what has been asserted in this resolution for censure of Mayor Janine James, have not been refuted at all. It has simply been a move of the goalpost. You are being censured for the context of an email. Well, I'm allowed to send emails. Of course you are. You're being you're being censured because you stated that you're looking forward for the opportunity to engage in this important work, which you had not been nominated or appointed to partake in. 72 hours later, MDOT reverses their decision. You go, I'm being censured because MDOT reversed their decision. Where in the resolution does it say that? It does not. It is talking strictly about your conduct as a councilwoman and mayor of this town. And frankly, I got to be honest with you, after 2 hours and 19 minutes now, it's just unacceptable.
Just a point of clarification, I didn't call this meeting. You were one of the ones that called this meeting. So if you had something better to do, then you might not have wanted to call this meeting tonight.
When did I say you called this meeting?
We're here because a meeting was called.
You just said, here's the trick again. Play the tape back. Play the tape back. You
I
just said, Councilman
did.
McCormick, said that you called a meeting. When did I say you called this
You
meeting?
did call the meeting because.
I called the meeting. I was one of 4 to call them.
That's
You
what
just,
I
Mayor
said.
James, you just said,
said
here it
point
is
of
again.
order,
Here it
point
is.
of order.
Stop,
There's not
stop.
a
It is-
discussion. There is not a you are one of the 4 that called this meeting. I didn't call this meeting. And that's fact. Again, I'm going to go on fact. You're going to try to twist the words. I'm going on fact. You, Council Gutenberg, Council Sampson, and Council Johnson called this special meeting. I did not. So my assertion that you called this meeting,
Just let-
you are one of the
just
4
let-
that called it. We'll roll it back and you can see. All right. Next on the agenda is legislation.
Okay, council, legislation, resolution 26-51, censure of a member of the town council of the town of La Plata for introduction and consideration of adoption. This is a resolution concerning the censure of a member of the council of the town of La Plata for the purpose of issuing a censure of a member of the council of the town of La Plata for violations of the town charter, town council, rules of procedure, and the town code of civility and all matters generally relating thereto. I think, and actually, let me check and make sure I read I read the one from the agenda. I need to read the one from the actual resolution, so I want to start over. This is a resolution 26-51, a resolution concerning censure of a member of the council of the town of La Plata for the purpose of formally censuring Mayor Janine E. James for unauthorized actions taken to undermine a formal vote and decision of the town council, interference with the administrative duties of the town manager, and noncompliance with established standards and of governance and civility in all matters generally relating thereto.
Do I have a motion to adopt resolution 2651 as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Yes. I would like it on the record that for the last 2 hours and 21 minutes, we have been discussing this. And unfortunately, there's a lot of emotion that was that poured into this resolution instead of its factual base. So I'm hoping that our great residents of La Plata will see that when they read this, that it is not factually based. It is emotional. And that's a shame because we are here to do the will of the town and to work for them and not go against each other. So go ahead, Councilman McCormick.
Thank you. Again, another really important trick there. Not a single assertion, claim, or fact has been refuted by the mayor here on why we are censuring. And I'm really glad you brought up that we're working on behalf of the townsfolk. It seems to me in this specific example, and the reason why the censure has been presented and is about to be voted on is because you have acted in your own personal interests against the will of the council who was voted in to represent the people of La Plata. The people of La Plata, the 11,000 residents we have, selected the 5 of us. The 5 of us selected Councilman Gutenberg. You send an email undermining that position, and now here we are. It has nothing to do with MDOT's decision. It has nothing to do with emotion. It has to deal with the fact, again, that we are called to police the actions of our own and to ensure we're all following the same rules for the betterment of the town of La Plata. And I believe, based off of the evidence that has been presented today and these actual emails, that you have failed to do that.
Thank you very much. And I will add one more discussion. The facts are the facts.
Madam Mayor,
And-
all members have not spoken.
Oh, did you have something to say?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I think,
Mm.
to me, the unfortunate, and maybe inevitable outcome of this, but the unfortunate outcome is that we've been focusing on, conversation around minutia of details. And really, I think for people that are, looking in on this from the outside, it's got to be incredibly frustrating to look at, I'm sure. What I hope, though, if you are looking at it from the outside, that you look at what the now therefore section of the resolution is, because it's just a few short sentences, just really 2 sections to look at, and it really just sums up the intent of what we're trying to do here, which is keep the governing body acting in a way that holds the standards that we have adopted for ourselves and holding ourselves accountable as a group for that. That's all.
any other? I will state it. The facts are easy. June 11th, I received a by name request to participate in a working group. It was taken to council. And on June 20th, I don't have the date in front of me, but council chose to appoint Councilman Gutenberg. And I did send an email, and it will be part of the record. And then July 31st, the MDOT affirmed their request and said they wanted, it was non-transferable. Again, to interpret emails so it kind of goes to your cause, and the actions of MDOT to reaffirm who they wanted to serve on this working group hurt somebody's feelings. And now there is going to be a censure that says they're going to go through all the emails. They have the right to go through everybody's emails being sent out, and that's a shame. So we have a motion that has been properly seconded. All in favor?
Discussion, Mayor James. The censor does not say we're going through each other emails.
Well-
Please stop tainting the public record. That is not what the resolution says. Again, a lack of judgment and not being responsible. That is not what the resolution say. Please don't give the false perception to the public that we're up here going through each other emails. That's not what the censor is for. You disagree with the resolution. Okay, I think we understand that. Let the democratic process go on. You said your will, and if you say facts are important, state the facts. No one up here said that we're going to go through each other emails in that censor.
But with this, Councilman Johnson, you have publicly stated, Councilman Gutenberg has publicly stated, it is the context of an email
Exactly.
that is censuring. So a reasonable person,
No, a person that lacks
would-
judgment would
a
believe that.
reasonable person would
I think we could be up here
say
till
that
midnight.
that all of our emails are up for scrutiny.
Well, sure
and-
they
and
are
these
as
censured.
public officials, any resident can FOIA, but we're not up here saying, oh, it's going emails. And I'll challenge anybody who do it. You're irresponsible and you lack judgment. There was a reason this was poured because of the context of what came back to us less than 72 hours, Mayor James. Please don't, if you disagree with the resolution, by all means, vote no. But don't give some false pretense to the public of what's occurring. And that's just lacking bad judgment again.
Again, procedurally, am I not allowed to discuss after there's been a motion, there's been seconded, I was about to
You
rule.
mentioned the resolution states that we're going to pull each other emails. So I would say that you're speaking on behalf of the council in a false manner, because that's not what the resolution says.
The resolution has not been passed.
The business before the council is the resolution. You stated the resolution state we are going to pull each other emails. That is a false assertion of what council is dealing with right now. Again, acting irresponsibly, Mayor James. If you disagree with voting on a resolution, you get to vote no.
Yeah, and you get to vote what
Yes
you
or
want
no?
to. Yes, but
But
this
don't give
is to
false-
take away my discussion point. I believe that's procedural.
I did not attend, I made a point of order to correct the record on business before the council when a council member stated the resolution states we're going to pull each other emails. That is not what the resolution
No.
states.
It does not. It just infers that all emails are up for discussion
It does-
because the context of my email is why I am being censured. Is that not right? Is that not right?
Yes. but it's
Okay,
not
so
what
that
you
is
said.
right. That's all that I needed to hear. So that opens the door for future emails being scrutinized. And if somebody doesn't
I'm gonna be
like
scrutinized for
what it says-
voting yes or no tonight. I mean,
Well-
my God.
if they don't like what it says, they can be brought up on being censured.
If you
So-
choose to do so.
Absolutely. All right, so we have a motion that has been properly seconded. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? It would be aye, and motion carries. So with that, this meeting is adjourned at 8:29 PM. Thank you for coming.